Hey everybody, it's Nancy here from American Pet Professionals. Welcome back to our spring season of digging into the pet industry. We are airing here on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and YouTube as well. So wherever you're watching from, thank you so much for watching. And if you are listening to a future podcast episode, thank you so much for listening. Today, I am super excited to bring to the stage one of our members, APP member Josh Haygood of Mia Nutrition. Hey, Josh, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Nancy.
So happy that you are here. So we were having some interesting chit chat before we went live. But Josh, I'm so happy to have you on the show. And here on Digging into the Pet Industry, we love to dig in. Can you tell our viewers and our listeners what your background was before you got into the pet industry?
Absolutely. It had nothing to do with the pet industry. That's the short version. I have a long career in television and doing movies. I did that for, I guess I still do it, for 20 plus years, about 24 years at this point,
Wow.
doing shows for Discovery and NBC and MTV and you name it. Documentaries and specials and all the things. So really spent a career traveling the country and meeting some very interesting characters,
Hmm.
which I always love to do. It allowed me to really kind of live in other people's shoes and
Hmm.
it feels like I lived a lot of different lifetimes. So it was an excellent career, which I've loved.
I love that. And I think that being in TV, because I have a background being a TV producer as well, and a few of our other members also have a communications or journalism background. I think you wear a lot of hats doing that. So I think it kind of is a great runway to entrepreneurship for something else. And I think that the pet industry is really just such a great place to take those skills. Don't you agree?
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, when you're a producer on a show or a senior producer, as I was for most of my career, everything is your responsibility and
Yeah.
everything is your problem. And
Hmm.
anything that goes wrong is certainly your problem. So you just get used to your job is to solve problems,
Yeah.
and whatever comes up, basically it falls to you. You have other people, but ultimately
Yeah.
you answer for whatever happens. And I think it just creates that spark of like, we will get this done no matter what. And certainly
Yeah.
that has served me for sure.
That wherewithal. I remember people used to say to me, "What is your title?" And I'd say, "Wait a minute, what time is it? What am I doing? What hat am I wearing right now?" It's just, it sets you up for success, I think. So, all right, that I love that you have a background in that and that you're still doing it. And I know you've been doing some pet stuff as well, so
Mhm.
that's really cool. But what brought you to creating a superfood product for dogs? Tell us a little bit about Mia Nutrition.
Yeah, so Mia Nutrition is named after my dog Mia, that I had for a long time. I got her when I started college, actually,
Oh
and
wow.
I had no plans of getting a dog at all. I
Mhm.
was up in Northern California, and I was at a street vendor randomly, and there was a little tiny box underneath
Oh.
their table with this tiny little 6-week-old puppy. And I love dogs. I grew up with
Yeah.
dogs, and I asked, "Can I hold your dog?" He says, "Actually, no. She's very skittish. She's sort of afraid of everything." And no, okay. But I just stood there. Okay, waited a minute or two, and he says, "All right, you know what? Fine, but get just for a minute, and then I need her back. No problem." And he handed her to me, and she was tiny and just fat and roly poly and so
Oh.
adorable. She was a Shar mix, so this all the skin, and it was just adorable.
Yeah.
And he handed her to me, and I put her up on my shoulder, and she went to sleep. And she was
Oh.
perfectly calm. And I said, "Okay, this is cute. Here you go." He says, "No." "What do you mean, no? That's your dog." "What do you mean that's my dog? I just started college. Like
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
no ability to have a dog." He says, "Obviously, that's your dog. I'm not taking her back. That's your dog." And I had a dog. It was crazy.
Wow.
Um, so I drove her back down. I was in LA at film school at the time, at Art Center. And I drove her back down to LA. She, during the ride, would crawl onto the floor on the driver's side and sleep behind the brake pedal,
Oh
which was
god.
not ideal. So I had to kind of ease her out of there, put her
Right.
next to me. She did get me thrown out of my first apartment that I lived in because she wouldn't stop whining when I wasn't home. And I didn't care at all. I lived with friends. I slept on floors. I did whatever I had to
Oh,
do because she now was my number one priority. And that,
yeah,
that was that. So
absolutely.
it changed my whole reality of being in college. Now I was in college with a dog.
Mhm.
And it made it 100 times better.
I'm
It made
sure.
it harder, in some respects,
Yeah.
but I'd leave during long lectures and I'd go out in the yard behind the school, and I'd walk her, and I would always have her with me, and I just loved it. And that started a long, wonderful relationship.
Wow. She probably became like the mascot on campus.
She was, yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone knew her, and she was a Shar-Pei lab mix, so she was a born retriever. And people,
Mhm.
it's college, so everyone has a frisbee. I don't know
Yeah, yeah.
why. Somehow, before college, no one has a frisbee, and after, no one has a frisbee. But in
So
college,
true.
everyone has a frisbee. I
Or
don't know
those
how that
hacky
works.
sack things, like
Or a hacky, yeah, I don't know
yeah,
how that works. They're just issued to you when you start school. I'm not
that's
sure.
hilarious. It's so
And
true.
she became the school dog, and people would throw things to her, and it was great.
Yeah.
But I think having a responsibility over like a living thing, it changes your level. For a young person, it changes your whole
Yeah.
level of responsibility in the world. Like, you have school and homework and all the things you need to do, but there's something totally reliant on you for everything. And it just, the scale of everything, a difficult test is like, okay, that's cute, but I need to take care of my dog. And it just created a bond that was very special.
That's amazing. I love that story that you got her in college and how you got her. That guy knew he was your dog. She was
He
your
did.
dog as soon as she fell asleep on your
He
shoulder.
did. He did. It was
So
great.
tell us about, now that you told us about Mia, tell us about how you went from being a TV producer and all the things that you've done, movie maker, to deciding, you know what, I want to launch a pet product.
It seems random, but actually it makes sense. So Mia was very, very healthy her whole life. I was super careful about the food. No tap water, filtered water,
Hmm.
the best food I could get. I would always add raw carrots, celery, pickled beets, which she loved, seaweed, which she loved, these
Hmm.
natural things to her
Yeah.
food. And no table scraps, no treats, like no garbage. We lived in New York City most of her life. And I would walk her mostly off leash. I know you're not supposed to, but she minded me perfectly, so we could do it.
Yep.
And it's New York City, and there's God knows what on the street.
Right.
And she wanted to eat everything, but if I'd said no, it was no. And so I really was very, very, very careful about her health until about 15. She showed some signs of distress, and we went into the vet, and the vet says, your dog has cancer. And that floored me. As
Yeah.
any pet owner can
Yeah.
relate to that. It floored me. And basically they said, at her age and everything else, we don't think there's much time, and actually what we think is you should just leave her here, and we'll put her down for you, and that's that.
Oh my God.
And you can imagine I was not okay with that answer
No.
at all,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, no, even if I have an hour, 2 hours,
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
amount of time, I'm taking
Hmm.
her home, and we're doing our thing our way. And no. So I took her home, um, and really was just distraught. I mean, I was obviously, very upset.
Yeah.
So I decided, to try and find an answer. I have a long background in people nutrition and exercise performance nutrition and all that kind of thing. So I knew a lot about how bodies work and how mammalian cellular biology works and how nutrition works. And I thought, well, maybe I can apply some of this to doggy nutrition. I mean, how
Yeah.
different could it be? I mean, I'm just throwing a dart at this point. But if I only have 4 or 5 weeks left, I'm going to do everything I can.
Right.
And I researched things like rare Brazilian mushrooms, and plant extracts and seaweeds and all these different kinds of things, that I really didn't know a ton about. I just sort of heard that they're good, but I didn't really know. And I started really kind of getting a deeper understanding. And I made a formulation, and I just started giving it to her, and I would see her response. And then, her energy would perk up maybe a little, or maybe her sleep was a little better. And okay, I'd pursue that.
Yeah.
Now let's try this. I was just trying anything I could. And eventually I really settled on a mixture that seemed like she loved it. It seemed like her energy was at least stable if it wasn't improving, but
Hmm.
it really felt like she was responding. And
Yeah.
I was seeing her sit up a little faster and stand up a little bit better and move better. And I'm like, something seems to be working. And I just kept going down that road. And I was terrified because the vet said, you have 6 weeks. So I'm looking at the calendar. Okay, we're at
Right.
4 weeks, we're at 5 weeks. We got to 6 weeks, 7, 8, 10, and we're still going. And how much more time do I have? I don't
Yeah.
know. We ended up getting 3 more years together.
Wow.
3 more years.
Yeah.
And her health actually improved the entire time. Her energy improved, her mood improved, her sleep improved. And ultimately, when she passed at 18, she didn't die of cancer. She died because she was 18, I guess.
Yeah.
But she had an absolutely gentle, exit. And I was, of course, with her. She was in my arms. Um, but it wasn't like a difficult, traumatic, sick experience. It was a very
Right.
gentle, kind of thing. And the vets just couldn't believe what they were seeing. They couldn't believe she was still there.
Yeah.
They
And
were
doing
shocked.
so well.
Well, yeah, I mean, they had counted her out at 15. So I
Yeah.
brought her back at 16 for a checkup. And they're like, she's still with us. And I
Yeah.
brought her back at 17 for a checkup. And they almost didn't want to like say anything because they
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
understand what was going. But they did ask me what I was doing. And I told them, I said,
Yeah.
here's what I'm feeding her and here's what's
Mhm.
in it. And I guess they didn't really know maybe a lot about a lot of these things. And they looked at it like, okay, if it works, I guess. But they thought it was sort of an anomaly. So after I lost her, I had a lot of friends asking me, what did you do? And how did you prolong her life in that way? And
And what year was that when she was 18?
2013, I lost her.
Okay.
2013. So after that, I decided maybe I could give this to some of my friends and try it on their dogs, which I
Yeah.
did. Some younger, high-performing dogs, some police dogs with some friend of mine, some older dogs. I tried it on a pretty wide variety of dogs, and pretty much across the board, they were seeing results. And so it really felt like, okay, I really think I'm onto something.
Yeah.
And the more I tested it and the more I put it out there, the more I was seeing results. And I'm like, this is really working. There's something really there. And people were encouraging me, like, this needs to be out. Like, people need to know about this. And
Yeah.
so around that, I created, a brand, and I started, doing really formalized testing and that kind of thing. And ultimately it became the brand that it is today.
So it's just a natural evolution of people asking for it and creating that brand. When did you officially say, okay, we're putting our product out there, we have packaging, we have all the testing done? What year was that? Was that
Yeah.
recent or a couple years ago?
It's felt relatively recent. So I, being busy and working in TV and everything, I really didn't think there was room on my plate to start a pet brand. I didn't know anything about manufacturing,
Right.
distribution, labeling requirements.
Right.
I don't come from that background. So
Yep.
I was happy enough to just make it for those years, give it to my friends and see the benefit and that kind of thing. And they were saying, you should sell it. Okay, maybe. And I just
Yeah.
didn't really think that that would really be a thing. I thought, if I can help my friends extend the lives of their pets, that's enough for me. I mean, that's
Mhm.
plenty of gratification. So I did that for a long time. And ultimately, it was really only in the last couple of years that I decided to formalize it and really turn it into a living, breathing product. And that's what I did. And it has been so much more successful than I thought it was going to be. I figured I'd sell a couple of bags, maybe go to a
Yeah.
show, sell 3 or 4. But as the word's gotten out, people talk to their neighbors and their friends in the dog park. I have people calling me from all over the country. Like, how did you find out about me?
Right.
I have customers in Nebraska. Like, how did
Yeah.
you find out about me? But it was really exciting to see that, people were having a good experience and they were happy to share with, their friends and neighbors. And that drove the whole start of the business.
Wow. So is the product for any stage of a dog? Is it specifically for dogs with a medical problem or a certain age?
No, it's definitely for all dogs. You think about it like vitamins. We don't, hopefully, as people, we don't wait till we have a problem to start maybe taking vitamins.
Right.
We take vitamins because it maintains our health and it hopefully prevents, problems down the
Hmm.
road. So the two sort of main uses that people typically, buy this for is an older dog with some articulable problem, its joints, its hips, its gut health, its skin, coat, whatever it might be, and they're looking for some sort of resolution. And it's people who really want their dogs to not ever have problems.
Hmm.
I have people giving the product to puppies from the very, very beginning. And I have a lot of that. And then a lot of adult dogs, including working dogs that really need to be at their peak.
Yeah.
I have friends in the search and rescue business, friends in the police department, and they're currently giving it to their dogs that really need top mental acuity and physical performance and really need to be at their absolute best. And we're finding that it really does make a difference.
That's incredible. So is the supplement, is it a treat? Like, what is it? For people listening and watching that they never heard of it before, describe what it is, or if you have a show and tell, you could show the visual part of it.
It's packaged like a treat.
Okay.
It's packaged like a treat. So it's a small biscuit. You can break it up into pieces. Some people will throw it in the food and just make it part of mealtime.
Okay.
Others will break it up and use it as a training aid or as an actual treat. And I say it's sort of like the ultimate guilt-free treat. Your dog thinks they're getting this delicious treat.
Right.
They are getting a delicious treat, but you know that you're not giving them some crappy like cookie from some of these places that sell maybe lower quality things.
Right.
And you're kind of like, well, it's not great for them, but they like it. And I want to treat my dog. It's the opposite. I can treat my dog and they feel like they're getting this incredibly delicious treat, and that's great. And they're happy, but actually I'm improving their health with every bite. And so it's like, you're both winning, your dog's winning because they feel like they're a good dog and they're being given a treat, but also, you're enhancing their health along the way.
How is your pet product different than other pet supplements on the market?
So I did a lot of research. I didn't want to jump into this not really understanding what I was doing. I was fortunate to meet a lot of people who were in the business already, who kind of gave me some pointers, and I sort of outlined my concept. Here's what I think here's what I've been putting in it. Here's what I think I'm going to go to market with.
Okay.
Here's kind of what I think the use case is and that kind of thing. And for the most part, everyone said, no, this is great. You should do it. They said, have you looked at this brand? Have you looked at that brand? And I made sure I really understood the market, my pricing and market positioning and all these things. For the most part, what I find is, our product is very carefully sourced. And so we have a number of ingredients that are very delicate. For lack of a better word, like spirulina, for example.
Right.
With spirulina, our product is green. It's green because we put in a healthy amount of spirulina, which is a plant algae. It's a plant algae that's full of micronutrients. It's full of really, really good things for people and for dogs. But it's very finicky. It needs to be refrigerated right until we put it into the mix on our production line. It's mixed, carefully. It's mixed slowly. And our product is dried at a relatively low temperature. What I learned coming into this is a lot of pet foods may have fine ingredients, but they're baked at a very high temperature. And the baking process actually destroys a lot of the health benefits of some of these products. And I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to be the one saying, we're organic, we're clean, we're this great product. But in the end, the third-party testing shows actually it's pretty neutered and it's not very effective. And
right.
That didn't work. So I really was very careful in thinking about that. Something like spirulina needs very low temp. So we dry our product at 110 degrees because at 115 degrees, the anti-cancer and some of the other properties in the spirulina actually deactivate.
Wow.
And so it's very delicate. And I think that's why major brands don't do what I'm doing. They just don't have the time to be that hands-on and that sort of careful with their preparation of their product. They're trying to do massive, huge volume. We're not trying to do massive volume. We're trying to make the absolute best product possible. The same product that I saw have such great results with my dog, that I've seen have such great results with so many other dogs. It's not an accident. We don't just throw this together. We're really careful about the way that we put it together, because ultimately it's not about how many bags can we sell, it's how many dogs can we save.
I love that. I love that. There's something to that low and slow, and a lot of people don't realize that, even doing home cooked with my own dog, it's low and slow. And I made a video and people are like, why? And then I'm like, it's too long to explain, but I love that, because most people wouldn't know that spirulina would lose its effectiveness at a certain temperature, right? And I feel like there's a lot of ingredients like that. They'll lose their effectiveness at a certain higher temperature. So I love that you did all of that background and research and everything. What products do you have in your line? I know you have a few different ones.
We do. So far there's three main flavors. We have a beef and boar, which is made from grass-fed beef and wild boar.
Okay.
We have a salmon, which is all poultry-free, chicken-free, egg-free, all poultry-free for dogs that can't do poultry.
Hmm.
And we have the newest flavor, which is a beef and liver, which is a grass-fed beef and an organic liver that we source actually from Argentina,
Yep.
which is the cleanest liver that we could find anywhere.
Wow.
And that has been actually a tremendous seller.
Wow.
It's not hard to get a dog to eat liver products.
Right.
We found that. In our testing, it was easy.
Yeah.
So I knew
Yeah.
that was the way to go.
I love that. And so are these products just primarily for dogs, or do you have anything for cats, or can cats eat any of them?
It's interesting. So there's been a lot of discussion about cats. I didn't grow up just in a cat household, so I don't
Yeah.
have the personal connection to it in that way. But obviously, there's no reason why we wouldn't want to also support cat owners. From what I understand, there's nothing in there that would be objectionable to a cat. I
Okay.
do have some customers who have cats who get into the bag and eat it, and they've had no issues with it.
Right.
At some point, I think we will be making a cat specific product
Yeah.
as we grow the line, because there's just been a lot of demand for that.
Yep.
But in the short term, from what I understand, I believe that there's no reason why a cat couldn't take it.
Okay.
I mean, it's all the ingredients in there are super clean. Everything's organic. I personally have eaten these treats myself, just curious to taste test them. But there's nothing in there that isn't absolutely clean and absolutely appropriate for any animal.
I love it. I love it because that's a big question that, cat is a big part of the industry. People say right now, but I feel like cat's always been a big part. It's just been a growing area of the pet industry. And there's a lot of cat parents that would say, well, what about cats? We want something for cats. So it's
Yeah.
good that you're looking at that from the future. So what has been the best customer feedback about your product so far?
Wow. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. I've had some very happy customers,
I
which
love it.
it thrills me to death. On our website, there's a few videos from customers that have agreed to be on camera and tell their story. So you can see those there. I don't know. Maybe the best is someone I know in the pet food distribution business who I've known for a while, and she reached out to me last year and was distraught and gave me a very similar story. And she said, I just brought my dog in, and the vet says that she's got maybe weeks to live.
Mm,
And can you do anything? This is a difficult thing for me, right? Like
yeah.
I don't guarantee any medical outcomes. I don't make any medical claims. I don't make
Right.
any, that kind of thing. I'm just going off of anecdotal and what we've seen work in the past. But I said to her, look, it can't hurt. It can't possibly hurt.
Right.
And I can't guarantee any one outcome, but it's a good thing. And at a minimum, if it can give your dog more comfort in her last days and weeks, that's great. And let's just see what happens. So I put her on it, and her 4-week prognosis from the vet became almost 6 months.
Wow.
And
That's
she was a
incredible.
stage 4 cancer patient. She was all
Wow.
the way end stage.
Oh,
And so we managed to stretch her out another six months, which is great. Um, you know, but it gets me thinking, what if I'd found her a year before? Or
mm,
what if we'd started 2 years before or 3 years before? There's no way to know. And I can't say my product did X, Y, or Z. It's
yeah.
anecdotal, obviously. But I've now seen that a number of times. So there's a trend is certainly building, and I'm starting to see there's really something that happens when you support a dog's health at the absolute most foundational level, at the cellular biological level.
Hmm.
This isn't some sort of topical, superficial type of thing. This is going to the root. We're talking about correcting the gut. We're talking
Hmm.
about working at the cellular level. We're talking about increasing a dog's energy naturally. There's no stimulants or anything artificial in there. It's all these ingredients working in concert to allow the body to make energy naturally and to fight off disease naturally and to just be stronger from the ground up. And that's really the whole idea of the whole thing. So I love those kinds of stories. I love that we can have any role at all in helping someone have more time with their animal is amazing. I was
Yeah.
lucky enough to have that. I call those extra years that we had overtime. That's my
Yeah.
term. We had overtime.
I
And
love
so
it.
if in any way we could contribute to giving her overtime with her dog, I think
Yeah.
that's the most important thing we could possibly do. And I'll be very interested to see with dogs who are a little bit younger, or even in middle stage of life, who are now on it. They continue on it. Like, what do their stories look like as they continue to age, and how
Yeah.
do they age? And that'll be very interesting to see. But it is very satisfying to kind of get those stories and really validate the whole reason I got into this in the first place.
Yeah, that's amazing because that's your mission statement to save dogs.
That's
So, there's something to be said for nutrition, right? Good nutrition and the proper supplements and what we're taking, what we're giving to our dogs. My dog has arthritis in both his front elbows. He's almost 11 years old. If I had known when he was a year old to give him, supplements to help that, none of the vets that I went to or that I talked, nobody told me that until he was about 7.
yeah,
And a holistic vet said, you should have him on joint supplement now. And I put him right on it. And I think that really helped him over the years. And now he's on, a few things that are not medicine, you know what I mean? So, and like you were saying, you can see with your own dog when you were trying all the different ingredients, like and my dog gets a little anemic sometimes. So I'll cook him some red meat and you can
yeah,
see like by the next day, he's like bouncing off the wall. So
absolutely.
it's really something to be said for nutrition. So I thank you for making the product because it's really incredible what you can, potentially do to help the dog. So when a pet parent is feeding something like this to their dog, is it based on their weight, like how much they give them?
Yeah. Yeah. There's instructions on the back of the bag.
Okay.
Up to 30 pounds is a half piece, 30 to 60 is one piece. And then above that, it's a little bit discretionary. If you have a
Okay.
Cane Corso, you're going to have to kind of use your
Yeah.
judgment. Um, I don't think you can probably overdo it. I have a lot of customers that just give 2 a day because their dog loves them and they love the
Right.
results. There's nothing wrong with that. I did have one friend of mine who has a little Jack Russell. His 3-year-old was playing with the Jack Russell and just overturned the entire bag, and the dog cleaned the whole the whole thing out in one shot. He was fine, no
Yeah.
problem. We don't recommend that, of course,
Right.
but we do feel like the product is really, really, really safe. So it's a recommendation, kind of as a maintenance. But if your dog loves it and you want to treat them and give them an extra, there's no reason why not.
I love it. I love it. Okay. That's really great. And are your products sold online? I'm assuming they're on your website. Is it D2C? Are you in any stores? Are you looking to get into any stores?
Yeah, it's mostly D2C. I go to a lot of shows.
Okay.
I do most of my business away from shows, actually, word of mouth and online. But I love the shows because I get to meet people. I've
Yeah.
seen you at some of these shows.
Yeah.
It's a great place to socialize. It's wonderful that someone comes up, oh, you're here. I bought from you whatever 6 months ago, and my dog's doing this and feeling this way. I love that.
Yeah.
I also love if someone says, "Oh, well, I is there coconut oil?" Someone came up to me, "Is there coconut oil in it?" And I said, "No, this one does." Okay, good, because my dog can't eat coconut. I'd never heard that, so
Yeah.
I made a little mental note. Okay, no coconut oil. This is how This is how I learned. But most of it's D2C. I do it on our website, which is eatlikemia.com. And you can get everything there. We are in a few stores in New York and New Jersey, and that's
Okay.
continuing to expand. Um, and we're always looking for more. The retailers that we work with are handpicked, and they're handpicked for a reason.
Hmm.
At this point, most dog owners probably aren't running into the pet store saying, "Where are the pet vitamins? Where are the supplements?"
Right.
We're not there yet in terms of the way pet owners think about their pet's nutrition. So we work with retailers who are willing to do 5 minutes of education. Someone comes in and they say, my dog has having hip issues. My dog's not sleeping as well. They're itching, their skin's dry, whatever the issue is. And a retailer can say, oh, have you considered the Mia Nutrition product? No, I never heard of it. Okay. And we have samplers and we can send them out with a sample, or they'll try a bag. Usually once they try it, they come right back. A lot of customers see results pretty quick, within 30 days, within 60 days, like quick. When you take a product and you see a result and it's the result you want, it's an easy sell to sell another and
Yeah.
another and another. We're not here to just sell lots and lots of bags and put a pretty label on it and have people basically say, I don't know, I think it's working, I don't know. That's not good enough. I'm
Yeah.
really looking for a result. And we're seeing that. We're seeing tremendous results with the dogs that are trying it. So I'm always looking for new retailers. but ones that are willing to sort of understand that customers are learning about why they might want to supplement their
Yeah.
food and why they might want to do something like this, and are just willing to just give that 5 minutes of, here's why you might want to do it. Here's what the product does. If someone doesn't buy that day, it's fine. Here's the website. You can go there and learn more. But there is a little bit of an educational sort of curve still.
Yeah.
And the retailers willing to do that are the ones absolutely that we want to work with.
That's fantastic because, if you, as a pet parent, when you're going into a retail store and you meet somebody that has the knowledge behind the products that they're selling, and I know it's impossible to have the knowledge for every product, but when you're that pet store owner, even if you let it trickle down to your employees and that equals sales, that's going to build so much trust for the pet parent, not just in your product, but in the store. And
Yep.
that's going to make them return to the store and come back and tell other people. So that's
Yep.
really fantastic that you're picky with where your products are going. I think that's important for the level of where you're at with your business right now.
Yep.
And that was funny because that was going to be a question we didn't prep. That was going to be a question I was going to ask you. All right. So as a young company, do you have any pain points so far for your company, for launching, for anything that has happened?
I mean, some of the things we run into is like the sort of stock levels and manufacturing. Because we're a pretty lean manufacturing operation,
Yeah.
we make based on expected need, right? We look sort of 30 days out, 60 days out. A lot of our D2C customers are on a subscription. And
Okay.
so we can look ahead and think and see each month, what the subscriptions are. And we know that those are coming in. And then there's kind of the extra orders that come in on the top of that. And there are months where we get surprised and there's just a bunch of new orders we didn't expect. We have gotten caught a few times with low stock, and I've had to send the email like,
Yep.
I'll send it in a few days.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one seems to mind. We do send a little extra treat with that to kind of,
Yeah.
thank them for their loyalty and their
The
business.
instant gratification society that we're in. It's like, listen, guys, good stuff takes time, right?
It takes time, but I think that though that comment's exactly right. I think that people don't mind because they realize they're getting something made by a small group of individuals.
Yeah.
This is not coming out of a factory. We have a commercial kitchen that we work with. That's
Mhm.
great, and their people there are excellent, and they really take the time, that I took when I was developing it. And I see it, very carefully controlled manufacturing process. No one's there to just earn a check and bounce at 5 o'clock. Everyone really understands that this is a mission, that the things we're making there are going to go to pets that really need it. And we want to make sure that they're getting the absolute best that we can make. I will not put something out that isn't right. I've rejected batches and just put them on the side for testing or whatever. But if I see a batch, it doesn't look right, it didn't come out right, anything that I don't like, it's not going in the back, period.
Wow.
It can't.
Yeah.
Partly because we're a young company and I want to make sure our best foot is forward all the time. And partly because this is not about a moneymaker or this is a mission. It's very personal to me. My dog's face is on the cover of the packaging. It's named after her. It's based on the experience I had with her. It's very, very personal to me. If I sell a little, that's fine. If I sell a lot, that's fine. Any dog I can reach is a blessing as far as I'm concerned. And every dog I reach is a blessing. So however fast we do or don't grow, I'm okay with, but I will not compromise on quality. I will not compromise on how we are doing things and on this mission. And as we grow, you asked about a pain point. How do we maintain that exceptional quality and careful control as we get bigger? And that's something we've really had to deal with. But so far, it's been great. I mean, you surround yourself with really good people that share your mission and really understand why they're there and why you're there. And we continue to get great results.
Okay, I love it. So I know I've said I love it like 100 times. Sorry, guys, but I do. I mean, people don't realize like I've been reading the back of pet food labels since the 90s. I've been reading Whole Dog Journal since the 90s, like when it came to you in a paper copy, so that I think all of that is it's so refreshing to hear because a lot of our business in the pet industry is we're looking at the incredible numbers, right, that the pet industry makes. And it's not knocking anybody. It's just refreshing to hear a different view. So what do you find different in the pet industry than in your previous career?
Oh, wow. My customers are a lot cuter.
Don't tell you any of your past talent that you've worked with. That's so funny.
I mean, I come from years at MTV,
Yeah.
movie stars and celebrities, and there's nothing wrong with any of that. But that's a
No
certain,
riders for the dogs, right?
yeah, right. No brown M&Ms, right?
Oh God.
You've been there and you know exactly what that's about.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Right.
But
Wow.
I was sort of thinking, and I still, do work in television. I still love
Mhm.
it. But I was thinking I probably am not going to do that forever. And when I transition and when I'm thinking about sort of, my follow-on career and so forth, what do I really want in life? What do I
Yeah.
just want? Nothing wrong with making another TV show. There's nothing wrong with any of that. And I just was thinking, what I want is to do something I love, that I'm passionate about, and be surrounded by
Mhm.
lots of dogs. That
Yeah.
was that was the whole vision. So this just kind of fits so perfectly into that. And the people you meet in the pet industry, as you know
Mhm.
very well, these are great people.
Yeah.
They could be doing a lot of other things, but their mission is to help these beautiful little creatures that we share our
Mhm.
lives with, and that's a special kind of person, and that's a good
Yeah.
kind of person, and that's the kind of person I want to be around. So
I love
I've
that.
loved coming into this community,
Yeah.
and everyone I've met. It's just been so great.
Yeah, that is definitely the underlying. We're all passionate about pets and working with animals and helping them have better lives, and it just trickles down, and as you go to more and more trade shows and everything else, and more people you meet, you'll feel that same common denominator no matter where somebody's from, what their background is. We all that same common denominator, and that's why I always say to people, you're not in the pet industry. Like if I go to a conference outside the industry and there's no pets there, I'm like, you guys are boring. you know It's like you don't
I get
even
it.
know. There's no dogs barking in the background. It's really funny.
I get
Okay,
it.
so I have a couple quick more questions for you before we wrap up. How do you incorporate your Emmy award-winning production skills as a TV producer to your and filmmaker to your pet company now? By the way, Josh has won multiple Emmys, so
How do I incorporate it? Well, there's a video on the front of my website when you go to
that's a
eatlikemia.com.
fantastic video.
You will see me, my smiling face there on the
Yeah.
front of the video. I mean, some of that goes into it. I love making the little customer testimonials. I just think that's super fun. I've
Yeah.
personally gone out to each of these customers in Florida, New York, and South Carolina at this point to make these things. Um, and soon California for another customer that's just over the moon that
Wow.
wants to do one of these things. Uh, so that's kind of like old territory for me, and very, very sort of comfortable.
Mhm.
But I think really it's about knowing how to have a vision and get others bought in on your vision. So when you're producing a television show, you as the producer have a very clear idea of exactly what you want, exactly down to I want like every detail in
Mhm.
your head, but you have to translate that to a team of sometimes quite many people,
Yep.
lighting and cameras and all the other things. So you have to really be able to articulate a vision clearly. And I think if as long as I really hold that vision near and dear and I have it clear in my head, I can articulate it very clearly to everyone around me. And I think really it's about finding the right people. So when you're doing a production, you don't just hire anyone to get behind the camera or anyone to write your script. You have very specific people with very
Mhm.
precise, specific skills. And I have, food scientists, pet food scientists, and packaging experts and marketing experts, and all these great people in my corner who are advising me. And I couldn't possibly do it without them. But I think it's just that idea of team building and
Yeah.
really bringing the right people to the game, which hopefully I've done. And that makes all the difference in the world.
I love it because when you're working in TV, it becomes like a family, right? You work on so many shows, you really feel like a family when you're in that environment. And I think that pet industry, when you have the right team, also feels like that as well. So,
Absolutely. Yep.
so is there anything else that you would like to add that I did not ask you about me and nutrition?
Let's see. I mean, I hope that your listeners are open, maybe if they're not already supplementing. It's not a sales pitch. This is about your dog. It's just all I care about at this point. I have like the worst pitch ever in a certain kind of sense because I always come out and say I don't care how much I do or don't sell, which is like the worst thing ever for a business owner. But it really is the mentality. This is not about get rich quick, or it's not, people get into this for a lot of reasons. I really want to just help. I really just want to make a difference. And so When I talk to pet owners, I say, do you supplement your dog's food? Most of the time it's no.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about, well, let me pitch my product. It's, would you be happy if your dog could be healthier, stronger, better, clearer, their better self? Well, of course, who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what I know to be true from all the research I've done and being in this world now is almost all food, even the very, very best dog foods, are deficient in some of the little things, the little micronutrients, the little minerals and things that are
Mm-hmm.
so essential to good health. Same with people food. So you may cook for your dog, you may have the best organic, fresh food or raw food or all these things that we see, all great, but still probably lacking in some of what your dog needs. So
Yep.
where we fit in is, I'm totally agnostic to feeding. We're not a food company, so I'm not here to tell you what to feed your dog.
Mm-hmm.
But I say, do your best, give your dog what you feel is right and what your dog loves, but let us come in to fill in those gaps that your food's not providing to give your dog that, ultimate sense of health. And that's
Mm-hmm.
really, really where we fit in. It's something a lot of pet owners probably don't think about all the time, but part of, my mission is to get people to think, oh, well, my dog's doing fine. Okay, that's great, but could they be doing a little better? Could they
Mm-hmm.
be stronger? Could they sleep better? Could they have better mental acuity? There's only one way to know. And so I say our product generally doesn't take a long time to start working. Give it a month, give it 2 months, and then reach out to me and let me know how it's working. Everyone who's done that has reached out and said, I can't believe the difference. I thought my food was great. I thought I was giving all the right things, but adding this in really has made a noticeable difference. So that's all I say to people is just give us a try. Each bag is about a month. So a bag or two, it's not a
Mm-hmm.
huge investment. Give it a try. And I do want to hear from you. And I do want you to reach out and let me know if it made a difference. And that's what this whole thing is about.
Because that feedback is so valuable for any company, I think, is listening to their customer.
Yeah,
And like you said, the coconut oil, you were like, okay, mental note, right? Getting
yeah,
all that feedback. So
yeah, that's right.
it's really fantastic that you are like adamant about them getting back to you so that you know as
Yes,
you're building everything that you're doing. So
absolutely.
where can people find Mia Nutrition? What is the website?
So it's eatlikemia.com is our website.
Is
You'll
it
know
it's
you
MIA, right?
MIA. Yep. Eatlikemia.com. You'll see us there. You'll see me there. You'll see my dog Mia there. You'll see us together there. Every time I go on the site, which is a lot, as you can imagine, I see our little photo together, and I always love seeing it. Um, and I answer personally almost every email that comes in. I try to. I have help, but I try to. And I very much want to hear from people. If you have a concern, well, is it safe? I'm doing these things. I'm on this medication. I'm on this special
Mhm.
food. Whatever your situation is, I do want to hear from you. And I would be very grateful for those of you who would give us a chance. And I believe that you will see a difference, or I wouldn't be doing this otherwise.
Josh, it's been so nice to have you on and learn all about Mia Nutrition, your story, and what you're doing for dogs. I wish you so much luck. Keep going. Keep telling me what's going on because I always want to hear all that fantastic feedback. And we will put the
Yeah,
link in the comment section and everything else. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story.
that's great. Thank you so much, Nancy. I really appreciate it.
All right, everybody, have a great rest of your Tuesday. Take care.